At some point in your life, you're going to need a lawyer. Lawyer Talk, where we talk to Atlanta's top lawyers about questions important to you. Here's Adam Goldfein.
Welcome to Lawyer Talk. I'm Adam Goldfein. This is where you get the inside information to the law practice. And we are here with Atlanta's top attorneys. I'm being joined with Richard Griffin of the Griffin Law Firm. Richard, nice to have you back on the studio.
Glad to be here again.
The exciting thing about what you do is you help people when they're at their neediest.
That's absolutely true. It's amazing. I mean, people really, when they're in pain in their everyday life, it's hard to make those decisions on what to do at home. You might be unable to work. Suddenly you aren't getting your income that you need for your rent, for your food. I mean, your whole life gets turned upside down and you really just don't know which way to turn.
You know, and you mentioned that when you're in pain, and we're talking specifically about personal injury, and personal injury can come about, I guess, because of car accidents or motorcycle accidents, but there could be a whole host of other reasons that people get injured.
Absolutely. A personal injury case is going to be any kind of accident where someone is negligent, and that negligence causes you to be injured and to require medical treatment. You may have lost wages, and you're going to have pain and suffering. So
you have cases such as car accidents?
Right.
Bicycles?
Right.
Pedestrians getting hit by cars?
Absolutely. I had a wrongful death pedestrian case that was tragic. I mean, it was a grandmother and a child.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What about dog bites?
Dog bites, we've done really well with those, and those can be terrible accidents.
Gunshots?
Gunshots, we have not handled gunshots.
But that could be.
Could be, yes.
Right?
Yes.
How about getting injured at somebody else's home or apartment or grocery store? Anything like that? A slip and fall. You fall in the in the produce aisle. Would that count?
Absolutely.
What about a scenario where you say, okay, I think somebody else did something to me from a standpoint of a negligent installation of something or an item or a construction worker or something of that sort. Maybe getting hurt inside your home because of the work of someone else. Would that work?
Absolutely. In fact, we had a case where a refrigerator was installed improperly and incorrectly. It tipped over and crushed a lady.
Oh, my God.
And she had $120,000 in medical. They offered $50,000, but we got $1 million jury verdict for her.
On a refrigerator?
Refrigerator case.
All right, so here's what I want to do with you. I want to take and discuss all the mistakes that an individual might make if they have a personal injury claim. And I want to talk about personal injury claims in the work and outside the work. Can you do that with me?
Absolutely.
All right, and also do me a favor, when we come back, I want to talk about what the benefits are of using your firm and what some of the experience that you have so people can understand that you truly are one of Atlanta's leading personal injury attorneys. And if you have been injured and you need somewhere to turn, we definitely recommend that you speak with a personal injury attorney and have your rights protected. You can reach Richard, toll-free 877 Law. If you are in pain and you need the law, then you need Richard Griffin. I'm Adam Goldfein on Lawyer Talk. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more on CW69. Welcome back to Lawyer Talk. I'm Adam Goldfein. This is where you hear and meet Atlanta's top attorneys, where we get them up front and up close and want to ask them the information so you guys can make a decision who to hire, where to go, and where to get the information that you need. Now, if you are injured, God forbid, and understand this happens to 3 million Americans across the United States every single year. 33,000 Americans are killed on the roads and highways, just as an example, and over 3 million injured just in auto accidents. That doesn't take into account every other type of accident that occurs and all the other injuries that occur.
That's right.
And very often, someone could be at fault for the injury or the damage or the pain that someone suffers, and they don't know where to go. And my first question, Richard, is that when people are injured, a lot of times they may not first think about getting an attorney. And if the thought comes over their mind or somebody in their house says, you should hire someone, they have this sense of guilt.
Right.
And they don't want to go after someone who's only interested in their own fee and not interested in the result for the injured party.
That's right.
So explain to me how your firm works, what your credentials are, and why somebody should be comfortable in calling you to discuss their case.
Well, we'll be glad to do that. And certainly you're right. A lot of people are afraid to call attorneys, maybe because they had a bad experience, because they hired an attorney that didn't treat them the way they wanted or needed to be treated. A lot of times people don't want to call because they think if I hire an attorney, I've got to litigate. And it's always important to let them know it's their case. When we're involved, most of the time we can get the fair market value or the actual value of the case without litigation.
Does that speed it up?
It speeds it up and it keeps the attorney's fees and the costs lower. So anytime we can get a great settlement That's always better than a great verdict because it's quicker and cheaper. The attorney's fees are lower, costs are lower, and they're going to net more. And what's important to me is what they are going to net out of the settlement.
And so what you're talking about is after any of the medical expenses or fees, that you want to know how much the individual is actually walking away with.
Right.
And you know, and I've heard of horrible situations where somebody, say, has been in a car accident and they say got $40,000 or $50,000, and between the attorney's fees and the doctor's bill, the individual comes away with nothing.
Right.
And is that the sort of situation that would happen with your firm?
It isn't. One of the things that we do is if we've gotten the top value or the policy limits where the medical is so expensive that there isn't enough money to go around, we're going to negotiate reductions with the doctors to make that money go further for the client. And I'm going to reduce my fee in the situations where I think we need to make sure it's fair for the client, because the client's the one who went through this. So right. I try my best, and that's why I came up with a new slogan. I was trying to figure out what should my firm be.
Okay.
And I came up with good people, great results.
And so define that for me. What does that mean, and how do you distinguish yourself from other?
Well, good people are people that are good, honest, hardworking people, and friendly people that are going to help you when you need help and when you're upset, you're concerned, you're confused, you're depressed. What do? You're going to have a friendly voice, and you're going to have a knowledgeable person to advise you and guide you through that.
And so one of the very interesting differences between you and other firms that I've spoken with, the fascinating thing is if you're looking for someone who is compassionate and empathetic, but yet at the same time, what I would call Richard is like a hammer in a silk glove, okay? You come off, I say it all the time to you, you're like Bambi with a cleaver. You're like, come on down, whack! I mean, the poor other side, but what's nice is you're so compassionate and empathetic to your clients. And you must have a tremendous respect back from your clients, the people that you represent.
Well, we truly have been very blessed. I mean, by treating people the right way, I hired people that are going to do the same thing. The people that work for me, I'm very proud of, because they are going to also be compassionate and helpful. But what's most important is that you're going to get the results that they deserve.
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating is that I'm sure that we could also talk to some of your clients, and if you have the opportunity, I'd like to be able to go to one of those videos, right, where
yes.
we can actually hear from your clients and what their experience was, because after all, sometimes you need to hear it from the horse's mouth themselves to know whether or not you're getting a great person and great results. And one of the fast things before we do that, congratulations on your new rating.
Oh,
You've been peer rated, top rating from other attorneys.
That's correct.
You're a super lawyer.
Right.
You've received some of the largest verdicts in the city. So if you're looking for a fantastic attorney that's going to take your interest at heart and get you great results, then you're looking for Richard Griffin. And if you don't believe me, listen to what some of Richard's actual clients have said about him, and then make up your mind for yourself.
I really, truly feel that the people there are good people, and they really do seek the best interest of the client. He got me everything that I deserved, and he went above and beyond to make sure that I did get everything that I deserved.
I recommend the Griffin Law Firm, because they will take care of you. They will make sure that your needs are met. They will make sure that you don't worry. And they will make sure that you are comfortable. And they always made sure that I understood everything. They never allow me to wonder if they were on the up and up. I saw results, I got results, and we won.
Good people, great results. You couldn't put it any plainer. They're absolutely phenomenal folks. The results are astounding. I couldn't believe the results that I got.
Welcome back to Lawyer Talk. I'm Adam Goldfein. This is where we get up close and personal with Atlanta's top attorneys. I'm being joined by Richard Griffin of the Griffin Law Firm. If you are in pain and you need the law on your side, then call 877-PAIN LAW. That's how you can speak with Richard. If somebody's sitting there saying, Richard, okay, you seem like a nice guy. I want to talk to you, but I'm not giving you any money.
Right.
I just want to talk to you.
Right.
Can they do that?
Absolutely. Free consultation.
What do they do? Tell them.
Well, basically, if you call at that 877 Pain Law or you go to injuryatlanta.com, I'll be able to talk to you about your specific case, the problems and concerns that you have. I'll be able to talk to you about what I think your case is worth and how the firm can help you get the result that you deserve.
But Richard, what do I need you for? I'll do it myself.
Well, there are a lot of people that have that thought, and you think, well, I can save some money, it'll work out great.
Yeah, because let's be honest. Okay, let's lay it all down. If I hire you, I got to give you a fee.
True.
Okay, now, that being said, you don't get paid unless you win something.
Correct.
So I don't pay you just for taking my case.
Absolutely.
You'd only take my case if what?
I'm going to take your case if you have a case that I know I'm going to be able to hit it out of the park for you with.
Because
it's going to be a case that you are going to get the recovery that you deserve because the liability is there was a negligent party, you're injured. I want to represent people that are truly injured and need to be compensated.
All right, but look, help me, and I don't want your spin. Okay. No, I don't. I want, what do the facts say? If I represent myself, won't I get the same money than I would get if you represented me? Because if you're saying liability is liability, pain is pain, the incident is the incident, what do I need you for?
Well, the insurance companies did a study, and it was 3.5 times more for people who had representation versus those who represented themselves.
What do you mean? The recovery was 3.5
Correct.
times more?
Correct.
So if I would have had 100,000 of my own,
Right.
I would have gotten 350,000 with you.
Right.
If I would have gotten $1 million on my own, I would have gotten 3.5 million with you.
And I know of specific examples with my cases. Just this past week, we had a case where we got it settled for $25,000, and they had been offered $1,000 before they hired us.
25 times
So that's
more.
25 times. There have been cases where they were offered $0, and we were able to get a $2.5 million verdict. So, there are
Why
scenarios.
such a big difference, though? I mean, I guess we have to step back and recognize what the insurance companies are there to do.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the same goal as you have.
Right.
They're not there trying to make the injured party whole. They're there trying to maximize the profits for their own corporation, right? And at the same time limit their risk.
So they're absolutely on the opposite side of the fence. They are going to do their best to save their employer money at your expense.
Give me 2 or 3 mistakes, okay? If somebody's watching and they're saying, okay, I got hurt, I got into a car accident, and what are the 3 most common mistakes an injured person can make regarding a personal injury claim?
Well, the first is when you represent yourself, the insurance adjuster is going to evaluate the claim and set the reserves. That means they're going to decide what they think the case is worth.
Okay.
If you don't have an attorney, they're going to set those reserves a lot lower.
What's the significance? So what? So they set it low.
The problem is that means the offers are going to be very low. And then when you say, gosh, this is terrible, I need help, and you call me, my job is a whole lot harder. And I'm going to typically have to litigate that case when I could have gotten it settled for the right amount from the beginning, which means higher attorney's fees and costs to the client and a long, drawn-out process that could have been done very quickly.
So the sooner I get you, the more money I'm likely to get.
Absolutely.
Give me my second mistake.
The second mistake is if you don't know the policy limits and you don't know the value of the case, you could easily accidentally settle your case or intentionally settle your case for pennies on the dollar of what it's really worth.
You know an example of somebody that said, okay, I got a settlement for this, and you were able to take it from them and boost it?
Yes. There was a case where they were offered $30,000. The adjuster said that is all the policy is. It turned out when we got involved, the policy limits, the combined limits were actually $100,000. So that would have been a $70,000 mistake. Luckily, they didn't pull the trigger and settle for the 30, even though they said, but the adjuster told me. They told me. And I said, well, we need to send the statutory required letter that forces them to produce an affidavit, because if you don't know the policy limits and you don't know the value of the case, you're in trouble.
You don't know what you're negotiating for, the price of the item.
Right.
And what's a third biggest mistake somebody would make?
Well, a third mistake would probably be signing a release, perhaps, or verbally agreeing to a settlement, and they don't intend to settle it, but they say, well, can I have $6,000? Well, that case may be worth 3 times that amount, and suddenly it's settled and done.
As you're saying these, it's amazing to me, because that would be somebody that also, we're assuming that they've done the correct investigation, the correct witnesses, the correct doctors, the correct medical bills, that they've stacked all the policies, that they've established the chains of causation and liability, that they have claimed everything that they need to do. And Rich is talking about the things that you would probably make a mistake had you done all those things. But how many examples do we know where people made statements at the scene of the accident or didn't memorialize witness statements, etc.? If you don't believe me, take a listen to one of Richard's own clients who was an insurance adjuster and what he thought if he could handle it by himself. You think you could do it on your own? Take a listen.
Well, I thought I could take care of this on my own because I am a retired insurance man. I've dealt with, sold insurance and paid claims out many years. I was a district manager. I thought I could handle the insurance company, but this insurance company that you had to deal with, you just can't. You can't work with them. I mean, I even called the Department of Insurance in the state of Georgia because I wasn't getting no results. And that didn't work either. I mean, I found out more about them, but that was all I was able to do. I had to have an attorney, and Richard Griffin was the attorney that I got and did the job for me.
Welcome to Lawyer Talk. I'm Adam Goldfein. This is where you get the inside information to the legal profession, where you can meet some of Atlanta's top attorneys. We're speaking with Richard Griffin of the Griffin Law Firm. Got a great phone number called 1-877-PAIN-LAW. I love it because if you're in pain, you need the law, you need Richard Griffin. Right. Great phone number, by the way. Easy to remember. Recommend that you put it in your cell phone. God forbid you are injured, because nobody plans on getting injured, right? You don't know where to go, who to turn to, and we're recommending that you speak with Richard and discuss the merits of your case. Now, sometimes, as we were discussing just before, that you're involved, let's say, in an auto accident, and that has its own set of complications, right?
It does.
Okay. What do you do if you get injured, though, at work? Because that's a different kind of claim, right? So an injury at work is different from, say, an injury where I'm out of work and I'm just driving home.
Right, absolutely. In fact, you can have both. If you're in a company vehicle, you could be having a personal injury case if a negligent driver causes it, and then you could have a workers' comp case if you were on the job in a company vehicle or on the job getting injured anywhere. That would be workers' comp. The difference is, in workers' comp, you don't have to have a negligent party. No one has to be at fault. You can basically, if you are doing your job, you're on the job when an injury occurs, then you're going to have a case that's going to be one that we can help you with.
My own fault. I stab myself, I trip.
Right.
You don't push me.
Right.
I fall because I got up uneasy. I fall and get hurt.
Right.
I have a workers' comp claim.
You can. Yeah. You don't.
Wow.
You can be responsible for it. You can make a mistake that's your fault. It could be a coworker's fault. It could be nobody's fault. You're still going to have a case, and you're going to be entitled to some things. You're not going to be entitled to pain and suffering like you can in personal injury.
Okay.
But you're going to be entitled to get your medical expenses paid for as long as you're going to workers' comp doctors. Income benefits are just the lost wages that you're entitled to. And even if you get an impairment rating, if you've lost part of the use of your body, you can be paid for that loss, a permanent partial disability rating.
But help me understand, Richard, because if I don't have to prove fault, and you're telling me I get my lost wages and I get my medical bills, what do I need you for?
Well, the problem is that what you get is what the adjuster is willing to give you.
Okay.
There's the law that requires them to do X, Y, and Z. But whether they do it or not, an adjuster is going to be, you're going to be at the mercy of an adjuster.
Okay.
If that adjuster says, you know, I don't think you should be back at work, even though the doctor says, you know, there's work restrictions, I think you can do the job, I'm stopping the benefits.
So they can do that on their own?
They can.
Even though I would say, no, I'm still injured. They have the authority to do that?
They can make that decision. Now, there may be, if you hire me, we get those benefits started, and they shouldn't have been stopped, it was an unreasonable suspension of benefits, then we're going to be able to get penalties and assessed fees. But you alone are going to be going, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I can't do a hearing.
So biggest mistakes an individual would make if they're injured at work, and I want you to think about this because this is a very common scenario. People are injured at work all the time. 3 most common mistakes they'd make.
I would say the first one is they're afraid to tell the employer. And the law says you've got 30 days to give notice of your accident and your injury. So it's very important that you do that. You've got to do that because you may be very seriously injured, unable to work, and may have a problem because you kept it to yourself and didn't tell the employer.
Second mistake?
Second mistake would be probably not hiring an attorney because you're not going to know that you're entitled to income benefits. You're not going to know that you can have changes in doctors. A third one might be that, you know, you end up just going to the doctor that the adjuster sends you to. You know, you're entitled to some options.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we can help you. You know, the employer can have a list of doctors. If the list is invalid, and a lot of times it is, or it's not posted, we can invalidate that panel, meaning you get to go to the doctor of your choice.
What's the benefit to me if I get to pick my doctor? Or versus they pick my doctor?
Well, the doctor is going to decide whether you can work or not. The doctor is going to decide whether you need to have that injection or that MRI, that test.
So in other words, if they stack the deck in their favor and the doctors say, no, you're fine, you're kind of left, you know, you may still be in pain and without a remedy.
Right. And that's a bad place to be. I mean, if you can begin to feel quite hopeless if everywhere you turn the answer is no. And, you know, the good thing is that when you're seriously injured, you have options. You know, if you hire us, we can get involved and make sure that we protect you.
You know, the thing to also remember is a lot of times you can have a personal injury claim as well as a workers' compensation claim, and it's important because the two intersect, don't they?
Absolutely.
And so give me one or two possible complications of having both.
Well, one problem is that the workers' compensation carrier will often try to subrogate. They'll try to get reimbursed dollar for dollar everything they spent from your personal injury.
So that would actually lower my personal injury claim. So if
Right.
that was $50,000 and they take their money back,
Right.
now I'm left with $50,000 minus paying them back.
Right.
And you would try to separate them.
We can separate them. A lot of times we can get them to agree to waive that subrogation or negotiate a reduction. Or sometimes if we could even get it void, where they wouldn't have to pay it at all.
See, that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars.
It makes a huge difference.
Huge
it really
difference.
Does.
How would
Yeah.
anybody even know that? How would you know to do that if you don't have the right representation? And this is what this is all about. And let me tell you something. If you think, for example, that, hey, it's fine, the insurance company will take care of me, my employer will take care of me. If you think that you can do it on your own, like I've said before, no one better to listen to is not necessarily myself, or not necessarily Richard, but really somebody that's gone through it. And you've got here a testimonial of somebody, one of your actual clients, right?
Absolutely. And he is going to be able to explain how he was upset and didn't know which way to turn. And we turned it around for him in 72 hours.
72
and
hours.
ultimately got him a great settlement as well. And the thing is, without an attorney, I didn't mention that, the settlements almost never come around if you don't have in workers' comp without an attorney.
I mean, this is the thing. So you've got to really make sure that you're protecting your rights. This is what this is all about. It's not about getting compensation you're not entitled to. It's about ensuring that people give you the compensation you are entitled to. You want to see what we're talking about? Take a listen to one of Richard's actual clients and how he helped him with his workers' comp case.
Prior to hiring the Griffin firm, I was scared and confused. I was in a lot of pain. I didn't know what was going to come the next day. After hiring the firm, my life turned around inside of 72 hours. Immediately I started getting the care that I needed. My medications were starting to get filled as the doctors had required. I immediately got an MRI and a CAT scan and a discogram. Immediately, they made certain that I was getting the care that was due me.
Welcome back to Lawyer Talk. I'm Adam Goldfein. We're speaking with Richard Griffin of the Griffin Law Firm. If you've got a question for Richard, please pick up the phone and call him at 877-PAIN-LAW. If you're in pain, you need the law on your side, and Richard is there to help you with getting the compensation that you deserve. And Richard, one of the, I think, the most important questions people want to know is, what's my case worth?
Right. Absolutely. And they need to know that. If you don't know that, then you're really in trouble. And that's something that we are absolutely willing to do for everyone who has a personal injury, a workers' comp, or a Social Security disability case. If it's at the beginning of the case, if it's halfway through, if it's at the end, it's free. Give me a call and I will personally talk to you about your case. I'm going to talk to you about the facts. Every little fact makes such a huge difference. It isn't like a magic formula that you can just look in a book. We've got to talk to you and answer your question and concerns, get the facts, get the damages, and tell you what we think that case is worth.
So you'll sit down and do a consultation for no charge.
Absolutely.
So anybody who wants to call that number can call that number and get a no-charge consultation. They can make a decision. They may have representation from another attorney, and that's fine.
Right.
They may decide to go it on their own, and that's their decision. That's fine.
That's fine.
They may decide to engage you, and that's fine. Right? So you're going to try to give them the facts so they can make a smart decision.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you'll be able to tell them what kind of great results you would expect, right?
Yeah. And they can also go to the website and submit their case that way as well. If they don't want to make the phone call and they just want to submit the facts of the case at injuryatlanta.com, they can do that, and I'll personally respond and let you know what I think of your case and what we can do for you.
Here's the deal. If you've been injured and you need the law on your side, if you're in pain, you want to call 877-PAIN-LAW and take Richard up on his offer of a free consultation.